Okay.
That's loud. Let's be loud. All right.
Now, Todd, if you do, as you say, you did put an image up there, would that block Gene from
I don't know. It's a good
participating?
question. Let's try it. This is, of course, an Apple and
Hi, Jenny. Hey,
Safari, right?
Jennifer. Usually Jenny is what my family calls me.
No available windows. I don't know what
Yeah,
that means.
Jennifer. Thank you. Jen's fine too. Usually people call that. I like your sweater. Me too. Yeah, I bet it's.
Photos, not photos.
It's fine. I mean, I'm a little.
Where's the darn internet on Apples? What's
I would
the
prefer a Woodland,
Yeah.
considering how much it costs to
Finder?
ship in a Woodland. But I got
If you wanted to search for a photo and put a photo up there from,
As an
of a cathedral,
I have a friend who is.
What's the-
Kitty app.
And it just.
I don't know Apple,
really
what's
depends
the,
on the goal. I think for her it's more the knit. and
internet
it's
on Apple?
or something,
Yeah.
what,
so-
what's the Google of Apple?
Marino.
What's the Google for Apple, did you say?
If I was on my Dell at home, I'd be on Google and I'd have it there in about 5 seconds. This is an Apple. I don't know how Apple's,
But I
Can't you
think,
just call up Gmail?
she doesn't have a
and,
copy.
I,
Yeah.
Or Angora would be the one.
I don't know. Can you? I don't know Apple
Yeah,
products or
but,
Gmail or stuff.
Yeah, just
So
because
it's,
I sweat as
may
much.
not work well today till I learn.
My
But
jacket, that's my backpack.
the other question is, how do I get it?
My jacket and stuff.
I think I would share my screen, but I'll
Oh
just
my
at
gosh,
least
I mean,
try
best
that.
investment ever.
What's
Um,
news?
And that one is another one
Where's-
about my parents, so, yeah. And, the problem is that the cotton gets wet, it stays wet and you know,
Huh.
keeps
Yeah,
the
that's
cotton
true.
kills. Unless you're in the desert, then it's great.
Yeah.
Safari is their place, right?
That's
So-
my Apple, yeah.
Yeah. Cathedral, Seattle. Images. That, and then,
You see Mark's James?
Yes.
I'm wearing my lucky earrings.
so
got Seahawk there.
Yeah.
St. James, and then if I'm from here, share this. And I share this. So that's what it'll do. So that's the St. James,
Leaving Gene over here.
and
I
it
guess
leads,
All right. I mean, we
leads
can keep an eye on
Gene,
it
so
that
we
way.
we can do it. I will leave,
Keep your eyes on the road. Gene.
TripAdvisor up. And I'll stop sharing. And then it goes back to that. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Jennifer?
You don't want your shirt.
Yeah.
I
Well,
have
as
a
I'm just here
t-shirt.
thinking on the run.
Cool.
Find an image of Gala Placidia and
It is.
post that up.
All right.
Is it?
Start us out.
It was.
GALA.
GALLA.
28.
Mine was
And
32.
Placidia, PLAC.
Yeah.
Moist.
Gala
No,
Place,
it's not 28 because if it were, my hummingbird.
IDA.
Oh, yeah.
It's different validations.
Is this a person?
I was walking
Yeah.
here from
Queen of the Visigoths.
85th and I was just like, you remember Colorado, Front Range, Colorado? Those winters were amazing. I love winter in Colorado.
Hey, June,
Yeah, hon.
How come it's,
it's Jan. When do you guys leave? Tonight?
And where are you going, Rita?
Panama Canal.
Oh, boy.
Cruise through the Caribbean to the Panama.
Wow.
is that her?
That's her, yeah.
Right.
Great.
Oh.
Screen.
Oh, I thought it was Frida for a minute.
Oh,
Yeah. I was wondering if you pronounce her name Gaia or Gala.
If you were Spanish, you'd say Gaia.
I
but
know.
I
don't
don't
know.
know, actually. In Latin.
Yeah.
There she
I
is
think Gala.
again. Selma.
Hi, Selma. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, and I think her last name, if that's what it is Placidia with a hard C.
Oh, the hard C? Oh. Well, I guess we should just agree on a way to pronounce her name and then that's.
Yeah, well, take it from somebody who took a couple of years of Latin about 50 years ago. It's a hard C.
Oh, did you take Latin in high school? So did I.
I took it in college.
Yeah.
She went to Spain.
I took a lot of years of Spanish, which is why I was wondering if double L is pronounced like that in Latin also.
Yeah.
One of my teachers was Mr. O'Connor, John O'Connor maybe, but we just called him Jock. J-O-C, Jock O'Connor, and he cursed me at one point because as he was writing Latin words on the blackboard, I would remind him to put a long mark over the A or something like that. He got irritated by it.
Oh.
He said something to the effect, "Mr. Young, bad things will happen to you."
Oh, no.
You say it in Latin?
Oh, God.
And my other Latin teacher was a defrocked Catholic priest from Italy. And he used to tell us how he would drive his hot Italian sports car over the Appian Way.
Oh, God.
What was he defrocked for?
I didn't know. I don't know. We just knew that was the case.
You didn't want to
He
ask.
would sometimes not show up for class on Mondays,
Oh, wow.
which
Yes,
is a clue, maybe.
yes.
Is it Joe on the road?
Is this public school?
Yes.
On the street. Okay, that's not here, when they, as long as they can see it, that's it.
Yeah, we'll start there. Okay. Shall we start with a prayer? Dear Lord, thank you for this gathering of people interested in continuing to look into the evolution of church history as we look at it through the lens of a couple of secular authors, but with many reference points to what the church was doing in the so-called Middle Ages. Thank you for keeping our minds open to new ideas and new ways of thinking about what some people call the Dark Ages, and guide us in our process of searching through this book. For all this, we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. Dave and I look forward to a free and open discussion of what seems like a pretty interesting book. Although I must admit, I've only read the first 2 chapters myself and the introduction. But we get a pretty good idea where they're going with it. The authors, I should ask, has everybody had a chance to read at least the first 2 chapters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Twice when I was sleeping.
Okay, good. In case you're interested, I did kind of a summary, introduction type summary and a discussion guide that's sitting on the table there. In the education box in the office, I also found a whole bunch of materials from the previous book, and if anybody needs to pick up one of those are there. Gene, I think out of his own purse, bought some extra copies of the Bright Ages, and those were in the education box, and I think probably the intention would be that those be purchased and reimbursed to Gene, I think is how it came down.
Yeah, because they probably turn it into the church.
Yeah, I bought mine at the same place he did. He bought those and I think they're about $20 or something like that. Okay, so our two authors here are Mr. Gabriel and Mr. Perry. One's a professor of history at Minnesota, of all places. Don't know whether he's been out on the street this week or not. And the other guy's, interestingly enough, a journalist combined with historian or somebody interested in the medieval times. And he's at Virginia Tech, I think. Having one or the other of them taught for 10 years at a Catholic Dominican college or something like that in southwestern Wisconsin. And there comes Ken. Anyway, these guys are interested in revisionism. They want to overturn what's commonly accepted idea that the Middle Ages were the Dark Ages, when lights went out all over Europe and people lost touch with what had come before in the Roman and Greek civilizations. Things were pretty grim. And the authors seem to admit that things were indeed pretty grim, but they want to tear it apart at least a little bit in pointing out that there was a lot of continuity from the Roman Empire into the centuries actually following. And there were sources of light, and that's their conceit here. There was light in the Dark Ages. And to me, they're going kind of a stretch, and that sometimes they seem to suggest that such sources of light as burning cities or funeral pyres of martyrs furnished light, and that seems a little odd to me.
Grim itself.
But anyway, their intention seems good, and that is to, they admit that history is always kind of a grab bag of ideas of how things actually work. In fact, I read recently that there's a school of thought that people not all that long ago, like 100 years ago or more, didn't think like us at all. I mean, we can't put ourselves in the place of somebody who lived in 461 or whatever it is here, because they weren't the same as us in the way their brains worked in very fundamental ways. I mean, they maybe even tasted things differently than we taste them. So
I don't think
know.
that's true based on what we, I mean, they all seem to be exactly like us.
yeah.
I mean, the worldview is probably very different, but functionally, I think, one of the things that we talked about in anthropology and in biology is that the brain has not really changed functionally over the millennia, over the eons really, because, it's more, mine's not working right now. It's on a roll and then it's like, well, I mean, there used to be this idea that we're evolving and becoming smarter than, somebody in the Middle Ages or whatnot. And it's that's really not true. That was a very Victorian idea. So I think it's just more what soft programming is in our minds and how we see the world. In studying linguistics, it's the way the languages that we learn really shapes how we think about the environment and the world. So, and as anthropology, we try to get into the minds of ancient civilizations, but also other cultures and stuff. And so I think it's very possible. You never know for sure, but that's even true for right now. Somebody could be perceiving something, look at the interpretations of the Bible right now, So I feel sure, grain of salt, but honestly, I think humans are humans. So, yeah.
Okay.
This notion of revisionism as a history, this is a revisionist history. And so history and scholars are full of revisionism in the sense that, okay, somebody has really studied a period and written it up. Now, what do future historians do? Do they just repeat what this person has said, or they agree. So oftentimes, I think historians are compelled or inspired to revise it, to disagree with it, to come up with a new version of it. After all, what am I going to add to this field of history? And this, I mean, reading this book, it seems ripe for revisionism because the rise and fall of the Roman Empire is well known and well studied, and Gibbon's wrote the classic book on it, and all these fascinating dynamics that we read about. And then you have the Reformation, the Renaissance, coming later, which is a fascinating period. And so it's kind of easy to write off this period as a dark ages because it didn't really get much play. It wasn't very fun to write about or interesting. So these revisionists are coming along and at a good time to take, oh, wait a minute, let's relook at this. So I think this is a really interesting approach to the classic revisionism to something that we all learned in school with the Dark Ages. I don't think any of us really questioned it much. We kind of, okay. And we moved on to the much more interesting Renaissance.
Yeah, I heard just a casual remark on NPR the other day. I wasn't even talking about the Middle Ages, but somebody just casually said, the fall of Rome and the fall of the whole entire Western civilization. Just accepted it as fact,
Yeah, and the book that's a very Western bias.
Yeah.
Because Rome declined, therefore civilization as a whole declined.
Right.
And we're going to find out, not necessarily so.
Yeah.
Whether it's Western bias or not, though, somebody I read about this book noted that these authors, for some reason, which doesn't seem logical at all given their basic project, basically ignore everything in Central and Eastern Europe. And I don't know. They're writing a book for non-academics. I mean, it's for people like us.
Yes.
And so they do bring in modern terminologies and ways of talking about the Middle Ages. And that's kind of helpful to me anyway.
Has anyone ever seen the movie? It's from like the year 2000, Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. Oh, it's such a great movie. It was like the first movie I went to see all by myself. I was so self-conscious. But they use modern music. And there's a lot of modern things to it. But the reason why they did that is they wanted to kind of create an environment that reflected like how it would have been for them, like how their music would have felt to them, right? Because how our modern music feels to us. And I thought it was, because it's like, oh, it's not pure, but it's also like, but in some ways it's kind of accurate. Like it creates that feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the name of the movie?
A Knight's Tale. It has Heath Ledger in it.
Oh,
Sweet, sweet Heath.
These authors, I think, in the part that we read at one point, talk about the modern TV serials, the Game of Thrones and
Yeah.
What a
a couple of
disappointment
others,
that was.
which I never watched, but
Still mad.
they point out how they are romanticized really and not really accurate depictions of what was going on in the Middle Ages. Yeah, anyway. So they set up kind of a idea here that the Middle Ages didn't actually start with the fall of Rome in 431 or whatever it was when Alaric sacked Rome. That's Edward Gibbon's, I think, starting point. And it ended, they think, with, or they set it up, it ended with Dante's writing his Inferno. Both things connected to this chapel mausoleum, so-called, in Ravenna, Italy, built by Galla Placidia. Let's just settle it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but maybe that's it.
I agree with you, it's a hard C, because that's the classical, and then my soft C is a classic E. Brain gone, never mind. So yeah.
Okay. The authors don't set her up for our purposes exactly as a religious figure, although noting that she was very devout believer. What she was doing was very much the act of a secular power broker. She was quite a power figure. And the authors are interested in her because she had roots all over the Mediterranean world. She was born in Constantinople, I guess, and then she went, correct me if I'm wrong, went to Rome, defended the city against the Visigoths or something, but then that didn't work out, so she married the Visigoth invader, and they went to Spain, and she lived there for a little bit, and then back to Rome, and ended her career, ended her life back in Constantinople, but for 10 years, she was in Ravenna, up there, where she built this mausoleum, although she isn't actually buried there. She's actually in Rome under the Vatican, with her 10-year-old, 1-year-old infant child who had died in Spain, but it appears she managed to disinter him and bring him to be buried with her in what's now the Vatican.
Yeah, I thought that was so sweet, you know.
Yeah, it is. And I guess it's a little bit in doubt as to whether the coffins they found there are actually Galla Placidia and her child or not, but it looks very likely. So we'll just settle on that. Anyway, they bring her up because she is an example of the interchange of ideas and culture throughout this Mediterranean world. It wasn't just a matter of Western civilization. Oh, and I should go back to that, the author's purpose. They also, in tying this to modern times, have the idea that they want to overturn the idea of dark ages, both because right-wingers use it as a reference point, so they can jump back to what they think is a example of white nationalism in the Roman Empire. And that's fiction, as the authors point out. They also point out that leftists refer to medieval world in a pejorative sense. I mean, they say an ice raid is medieval or something like that. So, and they want to dispute both those things. Anyway, how do we look at Placidia? I don't know. She, they kind of casually dropped the fact that she killed thousands of people and her rule, 10 years ruling as regent for her infant child. But she was very much into building church, religious buildings, both in Ravenna and I think elsewhere. Maybe she thought she was securing her place in heaven or something by doing that, I don't know. But she did build this very nice mausoleum, and they look at the tiles in the ceiling as brilliantly reflecting light, and that's their theme, bringing light into the dark ages. And there's something to that, because the following chapter is about the Hagia Sophia, was that for pronunciation? In Constantinople, the huge domed church that was built there by Justinian,
I think so, yeah.
Justinian. And that too incorporates light, and it's huge dome, and apparently fewer windows now than there used to be, but it still looks very light. And the idea both in Ravenna and in Constantinople was to, I think, lift people's eyes toward God who's up there in heaven. And seems to have succeeded, even to the point of Dante's looking at this mausoleum many hundreds of years after it was built and getting the basic idea for his famous poem, The Inferno. So it might have some merit to it.
The role of architecture and religion, we talked about it in the last book, and some of you shared some of the experiences of some of the beautiful cathedrals and other buildings you've been in your life. Just when we see again here in both chapters, the role of architecture, but your thoughts on how, in this case, Christianity, or more broadly religion and architecture, or more broadly art, how do they interrelate? How do they use your experiences? I'll give you one just to prime the pump. I do a lot of walking in Europe, and I've been by and into some, been by many cathedrals, beautiful cathedrals, and into a few. For me, I stopped going in them. I found them so offensive to my Christian beliefs, my core value, religious beliefs, that I was so offended by them that I stopped. However, I have to back up and say that they are beautiful, they're stunning. The architecture, when they were built and how they built them, and the beauty and the vision that these people had was stunning. But yet, as stunning, I mean, you can imagine these beautiful stained glass windows and light shining through. But then you see all this gold and everything, but so I was so offended by that. But what I was really struck by was, what were the people of that time? How did they perceive these cathedrals? Particularly the poor, particularly farmers from way away that came to, I just imagine them being dumbstruck, awestruck, but by overwhelmed by the beauty, but also just their insignificance compared to these things. That was my impression. But have others of you had experiences with beautiful buildings, these cathedrals, and what they meant to you or others?
Yes, in Germany, when I went to Germany, I forgot the name of the cathedral there. It was huge.
Could it have been Cologne? Cologne, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. And it was huge. And in Holland as well. I went to Holland because my parents were there at the time. And the huge churches with I mean, it wasn't, the membership was less than before, because kids don't go to churches anymore. Yeah.
But the building was beautiful.
Yeah, and in Bethlehem, I tell you something, that the church, the Lutheran church, people go, the tourists go to the Nativity Church. But it's fascinating as well. But with the Lutheran Church, it was built in the days of William II, Emperor of Germany. And he provided for this, the windows indicate that about Christ's birth, and then I'm sorry about my voice, and it was really beautiful windows there, and there was an organ there, a very my dad played that organ, but bellows were. My brothers will do this. Then my oldest brother had music ever since he was a kid, and he could play the organ there. And he would tell my other brothers to go and use the bellows, and they'll get when he was practicing, they get bored of it and they leave it and run away, and he go after them. But now it's on electricity. It's different. When I went to Bethlehem in 2006, I went to our church and with my cousins, and it was different now. But it's a beautiful church. It's a very old one. Tourists go to the Nativity Church, but I tell them you should go to see that church as well.
Last summer, my wife and I visited Paris, and we went to the Sainte-Chapelle, I think it's called, at the western end of the Ile de la Cité there, across the island from Notre Dame. And that's, I think the authors even mention it. It's another one of these places. It just celebrates and glorifies light. The stained glass windows just are
I was in Notre Dame last summer after they reopened it.
so was I.
What? It's amazing. Awestruck. Anyway.
Sorry. So you asked about our, our impressions. So when I was in Europe, I understood the French Revolution from Versailles, but I didn't have that same feeling in the cathedrals. I didn't have the feeling that poor people would be resentful or that money was being used to build cathedrals. I thought, first of all, they point upwards, assuming that God is up there, and that they would feel, or people would feel, they would feel good, or feel the glory of God.
Well, the authors maintain that the people of Europe, their Europe, back in these years were much more religious generally in their lives than we are. I mean, they really had the fear of God in them before they even went into the cathedral.
Yeah.
And then they see the cathedral, and the cathedral is telling stories. I mean, the stained glass windows show the Bible stories and everything. Did you pick up on that one, all those statues out in the front on the facade of Notre Dame? And they apparently were intended to be the kings of ancient Israel. But in the French Revolution, the mobs figured they must have been old French kings. So they went and chopped off the heads of every one of them. And then the heads, the marble heads were buried in somebody's backyard. They were just rediscovered back in the 1960s. I don't know if they glued them back on or not.
Well, I don't have much experience. I was a little baby in Europe, but I used to go to church with my friend, and she's like one of the conservative fundamentalist types. And I went to several in Vegas, in Santa Maria, California. And the thing about them is they are they're not like this sanctuary at all. They're just like a building. There's nothing special about it. And it's almost like they're mass producing evangelical fundamentalist Christianity, conservative Christianity.
Yeah.
It's just like boom, boom, boom. Just the same giant screen up at the front with the stage, the same songs that are just really awful. And just, it's just, ugh. And then, growing up in Vegas, it's like every high school has like a Mormon church next to it, because that's where all the Mormon high schoolers go before school starts. So they're supposed to be there like 5 a.m. every day. And fun little fact, Tacoma, they're building a new Mormon temple. So there's a difference between the church and then the temple. Anybody can go into the church. You have to, even as a member of the Mormon church, you must have a recommend from your bishop in order to enter the temple. I would not be allowed to enter the temple. So lots of stories like women getting married in the temple and their grandmother has to sit out in the parking lot. So they're building it, but when they build a new one, before they dedicate it, they have an open house. And apparently they let you into the celestial room, which is crazy. They have all these different rooms with all these different things. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it in the next couple of years, see when they're doing that, because to satisfy my morbid curiosity, I'm going to go check it out. But I have been in the Salt Lake Temple, which was a really weird experience. I can only go so far because like my family were not Mormon, but my grandmother was married to somebody pretty high up, so they made like an exception.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like white.
Well, just don't forget to put on your horsehair underwear or whatever it is before.
Oh, no, it's not horsehair, it's just magic underwear.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's real.
Well, I was just gonna say, when we were in Italy, and this person I was traveling with, she said, well, it shows the faith these people had. And so I kind of hold on to that, they had a lot of faith to put all the beauty they had into these buildings. So,
I was going to say also, the authors point out as one of their themes of continuity from old times, the way this Hagia Sophia represented an advance over the Romans' idea of a church from the Roman basilicas, which were basically modeled as after marketplaces or something, just places where people could stand indoors in
Right.
a large space, but they didn't have much light or anything like that. And then they built this Hagia Sophia, which lifts the eyes even further up and lets in the light. And so,
I was in Europe, I was kind of disgusted with the Vatican.
a little too rococo for you, sir?
It's there's so many treasures, over and over and over again. It's just.
In the same way, I was in Mexico last year and went into a church there, and I just, it was gold all over the place. And as you walk in there, that was built on the backs of these Indians who were enslaved and broken in the process of building this place. And it was just ridiculous.
Like
really.
it was like lots of. I've been to Familia Sagrada, Familia Sagrada in Barcelona, and I didn't feel that way. I was more, that was before I'd gone to the Vatican too, but it was also, maybe it was because it was Gaudi, it was just sort of weird.
Well, we talked about this beautiful architecture and its good points. It tends to make people think about God, even if their idea that God is up there might be a little off from the way we think about it, but still, it does that anyway. But then I think back, what did Jesus say about architecture? These people who were supposedly Christians building these great buildings and everything, but the story I remember from the Bible is Jesus looking up at the temple and somebody said, look at that beautiful temple. And Jesus just says, yeah, well, in a couple of years, there won't be a single block standing on another one. I don't think he put a lot of stock in architecture, at least that I can tell, or in art or music either, for that matter. But just a thought.
I think it's a good thought.
I think it gives people hope. The common people, it gives them the hope of the grandiose of heaven or whatever, I don't know. At the same time, that it's way too much.
All the way through the Bright Ages or the Middle Ages or whatever, there's an ongoing debate about beauty and whether it is a stepping stone to visualizing God, or whether it's a distraction where you become fixated on the thing itself. And so when you're talking about when it gets into the really fancy churches like Saint Denis or whatever.
Uh,
And this is an ongoing debate, like, should you be not putting your faith in physical beauty, which is a distraction from God, or is the physical beauty a stepping stone, a ladder that leads you upward toward God?
Right,
And you could see when, when beauty won out,
right.
when it was Saint Denis.
Good point.
And there's in a similar way, there's a train of thought in our early Protestant origins that music is a distraction from true
I used
worship
to be
also.
really, growing up in this church, it bothered me that, the first time any kind of imagery came into that sanctuary was during the Vietnam era, when we got little, felt flags of the Gov or something like that. But it was just the upside down boat, and that was it. And there was no visual anything, which I found to be rather oppressive in its starkness. It seemed unremitting, unrelenting. But it was Martin Luther walking into the Sistine Chapel in an advanced view of what was going on with Michelangelo, at the same time as there was the selling of indulgences and all of this going on. And it was him rebelling against that, saying, no, this is wrong, this is corrupt. You're leading people in order to create this fantastic wealth of physical beauty, and we're not going to do that anymore. So it takes off the Reformation.
Yeah.
But it was the reaction again to the art. A lot of the outside of the churches were designed to terrify people, that you were entering into these gateways where God could condemn you. So you have all of these horrible images of hell or whatever going on the outside, and so you're entering into this space where your soul is in peril. And again, remembering that they're not hearing the words in their own spoken language, they're only hearing Latin. So what they're left with is the art.
Good point.
Yeah, and again, to like my experience in the more conservative evangelical churches, it's like there's no art. And again, this building could be anything. It's like maybe after 2 years they leave and now it becomes, some like store or something. Like there's just really nothing about it that would tell you it's a church except there's a sign,
Yeah.
And so again, it's just like, it just really feels like mass produced. Like they're just, yeah. So.
Well, it does get down to a kind of a populist view of what a holy place is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, that God could be anywhere. You don't have to have it, like the sanctified thing you were talking about with the people. That you can, that as in early days of Christianity, you could meet in somebody's basement.
Right.
In a cave, and that's all cool.
I don't think that's their intention, though. I think they just want to mass produce Christians.
Okay.
That's what they're trying to do. So, and have everybody think the way that they think. And there's a reason I never joined. So, but yeah, and then it's interesting with the Mormon temple, like they try to make it as fancy and expensive and just, as they can, because it's supposed to be God's house, and like, the Spirit's supposed to be there. And it's, yeah, like I said, lots of different rooms, lots of different things, but
The purposes served by these buildings can differ depending on what end of the social spectrum you're talking about. I mean, Galla Placidia, at the top of the social order, ruler and everything, builds his mausoleum. And then hundreds of years later, Dante, who's at the other, he's a refugee from Florence, basically, and on the run. And he comes to Ravenna and is inspired by the same building. But he doesn't build his own physical, he can't, structures. He builds one in his mind of the way God's kingdom works from hell down. It's quite a beautiful piece of art.
yeah, it's inspiring, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was nothing inspiring about where the churches that I experienced with my friend. So, yeah, I mean, the music is kind of designed that way, but Yeah, I don't know.
Dante's Inferno is mostly inspiring, I admit, but as a left-hander, I have to object to the fact that all the turns toward the good are to the right in Dante's Inferno, and all the turns are on the left.
Yeah.
Well, the word sinister means left.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Interesting.
So, I don't know, I guess we're on our way with this thing. We probably should wrap it up soon, but more thoughts?
We got a little more. I was, besides the architecture and the religion thing, I'm also interested in the ongoing theme of the church and the state and how they interrelated and depended on each other. And we see in both chapters some major political players, Gala and then Justina and Theodora, the kind of original power couple, but very much the traditional rulers and politicians and all that stuff, but also the use of religion. So you wanted to get your thoughts on how you saw the role of Christianity in the government and political power structure then, and then more into it. How do you see it today? Was that just a kind of medieval practice, or is that going on today? Anyway, religion, politics.
Depends on what country you're talking about. Like Iran, they're very intertwined.
Yeah, it's one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is everywhere.
Pretty much.
Intertwined here too.
Yeah, I know. It's
Yes.
more so than it used to be.
Yeah,
It's a power thing, I think. You want to gain power because you want to be in charge. And one way you can do that is to claim the staff of God. I've got the answer because God told it to me last night. And so you gotta believe me. And it's power.
As I say, I've only read the
Usually
first two chapters of the book, but I'm sure we will get into many rulers in Europe saying they are God's appointed ruler, and some of them even capitalized on it in the way Trump would. So, I read a book by Mark Bloch once that pointed out that the kings were in the business of selling touches of their bodies because people who were afflicted with some sort of disease, I forget what it was, thought that they would be cured if they could only touch the king. Because,
the hand of Jesus as he walks by.
Yeah, exactly.
It's $5.
well, people the argument for Trump is that God chose godless people sometimes to do what he wanted. And so Trump is there doing what God wants.
Yeah, their model is Cyrus of Persia, I think.
Yeah.
How they could rationalize that is a character of that guy, and he's God's appointed, is just incredible. That's a real spin. Somebody.
But they do. It's
They did
very,
it. They did it.
very much.
If we go back to the rise of Constantinople, I get the right, I forget the name changes. They had a problem of legitimacy. How do we create this as the new center rather than Rome? And they did a number of things, the architecture, they had these church councils, and then they have meetings and stuff. But they also used Christianity and stories. We had that story, I didn't know that story of Daniel. Another stylite, another guy up on a.
Yeah.
Those are interesting guys.
Yeah. I always wonder how they went to the bath.
I wondered the same thing.
They just let it go. Watch out below.
Just the daily basics, food and bathroom. And
I dug into this guy a little bit. His style was not as tall as Simeon's was. Simeon's was 30 feet.
Oh.
Daniel's was only 10 meters or something like that. It wasn't as tall there in Constantinople, but he had all of his meals hauled up in a bucket on a rope, and then all waste and everything lowered down in a hopefully different bucket. And he stayed up there through, rain and sleet and snow for many, many years. And basically, he'd been standing most of the time. At the end of his life, his feet were just a total mess from the conditions. And when he actually died, they had a hard time lowering his body down because all of his limbs had withered.
Oh,
I would think so.
Yeah.
jeez.
But he was an advisor to the emperor, and the emperor would come by his style every once in a while and ask for advice.
He's have to shout on it.
Well, don't tell that to Trump, or he's gonna want a statue himself.
Didn't he already have like an AI video of his vision for Gaza with like a giant golden statue? Because I'm actually following this woman on Threads, and she talks about how one of her brothers finally turned from MAGA because of that golden statue. He was like, that's idolatry. Like, I'm done. That was his line, apparently. Yeah. So.
But Dave is right. I mean, the story of Daniel the Stylite was basically to support Constantinople's claim to be taking over as the center of the church from Rome, because he has a vision or something that he was going to be heading for
Vision, he was going somewhere.
for Rome, but then an angel came to him and told him, no, you should go up there to Constantinople.
Wasn't that the angel who was in the guise of a hairy man?
Yeah, hairy man. Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
Interesting.
I know.
So these stories and kind of myth making, very important to try to establish legitimacy, because they had a real challenge on their hands to take the legitimacy away from Rome. But yet, as the book points out, that they all call themselves Romans.
Yeah.
Right.
But yet, power shifted to the east. Interesting dynamics.
There was a story about how Placidia, in her last 10 years in Ravenna, wrote a letter to her niece and nephew who were in charge over there in Constantinople, and she kind of accused them of not being faithful enough, and urging them to promote Christianity more than apparently they were. But another example of the tie-in between church and religion.
Yeah. I was also thinking about the power of stories and how stories create legitimacy in culture. And when we talk about Daniel, and the other one I was thinking about was the American Revolution, and how we are all raised on the stories of the American Revolution, from Paul Revere to the tea tax to and I don't know about you, but I was raised on the heroism of these colonists, these freedom-loving, God-fearing colonists who rose up against the evil king of England for freedom and independence, and that much of, from then on, the world has been inspired by the light of we showed on the world about democracy and freedom. And that was I'm exaggerating a bit, but that was kind of the story we've all been raised on, is just the just absolute miracle, wonder of the creation of the United States. And yet, now that with Ken Burns' latest series, but the revisionists it's much more complex than that, much more complex. And just wondering how that story and the revisionists will affect our view of ourselves. And political again, but Trump is calling into question what it means to be an American. And I'm just so humiliated and embarrassed and ashamed of our country right now. And so the stories of the independence and the glories and freedom compared to now, and are we going to have to tell a new story? I'm kind of raising provocative questions here, but it's a power of story.
The motto of my home state is live free or die.
It's pretty hardcore.
It's pretty hardcore. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, right.
Yeah, like I have ancestors, like my grandparents had a musket from the Revolution hanging up in their house. So yeah, my family's been here since 1629, which means they also participated in the massacre against the Native Americans that inspired the first Thanksgiving. So I have to ruin Thanksgiving every year for a little bit.
So do you find yourself in a revisionist historical mode at all about it?
It's sort of like we're going through a dark ages.
Well, this morning on NPR, they were talking about, Trump ordering the National Park Service to change all the signs and the displays and, to avoid woke history.
Right. He just, a couple of days ago, managed to have the signs taken down, I think in Mount Vernon, pointing out that, Washington owned a couple of hundred slaves.
Yeah, slave records.
We don't want to know that, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's created a website or an organization of some sort to take all those signs that have been taken down and preserve them to be hopefully put back up again someday.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think it's very, like, I was definitely crying yesterday watching all the footage that's been coming out from, the murder of Alex. And it's just, all of this darkness has been a part of our country and our history. We've just never, being white, we've been mostly insulated from it. And, it's also just like, being from New England, I didn't take part in slavery. Yes, we did, and I actually found out that I am like literally one drop black. I have like a tiny bit I have West African ancestry, and the timeline, according to 23andMe, would have been about 200 to 300 years ago. So I don't know the circumstances, but most likely this was an enslaved individual, and somehow they are my ancestors, as well as the people who most likely owned them. So it's complicated, but like these, the darkness has always been there. Like Black Americans were like, 2/3 of a person? Women weren't even mentioned. And we have definitely been property for a very long time, if not, spoken, like you are my property, but definitely functionally, And this is our opportunity for all of this to come to the light, because the infection has to be visible before we can heal it. So this is a really good opportunity for us to really change things and to really live the promise of, one, the kingdom of God, but also the promise of democracy. So let us be strong enough, though, because, man, I have to tell you, it's been hard not to have violence in my heart towards ICE. So good thing I'm coming to church now.
It's sort of amusing, really, from a legal point of view, to see how that system of disenfranchising, Black people sort of disintegrated over the course of several generations in places like Virginia, where the laws were set up. Now we have some people who are half Black, half white, and the next generation, we have some people who are only a quarter Black. We'll call them quadroons or something, and the next generation, he's an octoroon. And finally it just dissolves in complete ridiculously.
I think in the past it was like if you were one drop, you were considered Black.
Yeah.
So, but clearly I'm white.
I think Judy's got something to say on Zoom.
Yeah. No, it's just, I did a tour of Savannah about a year ago. And part of the whole theme of it was looking at urban slaves and what was slavery like for those living in the city versus, I guess growing up, I learned about the plantations and that type of thing. And also going to one of the Baptist churches that was on the Underground Railroad, like some of the ways they tested, and obviously we weren't doing blood tests. If somebody was black enough or not to be able to be accepted into certain places or sitting in certain places, and it was really weird. But anyway, it was a very interesting way of looking at that whole issue. Anyway, I just was, while we were talking about that was my little bit to go in.
They were almost like different classes. The house servants and the field hands were different social categories altogether.
There was a difference between light skin and dark skin.
Right. Right, and it wasn't just.
They're treated differently than the dark skin.
Yeah, but there were other things like a test that.
If your hair wasn't
put a
that
pencil, yes, to put like a pencil through the hair, and if it would fall out, you're lighter skin than, or considered lighter than that it's stuck there because of the curly hair.
That whole blood quantum thing was set up by the government
Yes.
to split people, even like me being black and native and a bunch of other things. It's like
They still have that blood quantum thing, like on
we still
my,
have it too, even with my kids being
yeah,
black
his
and
kids.
native. Yeah, but except they look light like me, but they're native. Especially my second oldest look real. I hate to say it, but he looks real white, like he's natives.
Yeah, they have to have their cards so they can get treated by the Indian health system.
Yeah, that's a whole, I don't do the card thing.
It shows a certain percent blood quantum.
Oh.
I mean, do I have to have one for being black too? It's like, do I gotta show my 17%? I'm African. No.
Well, the issue of slavery comes up, I'm sure, in the Middle Ages quite a bit. The discussion that I was reading was these Visigoths were, one of these Germanic tribes who sort of infiltrated into Rome, but they were on the run from a famine or something like that, and they were turned into slaves basically, but they, kind of mixed into society and eventually started looking at themselves as Romans. And with the invasion of Rome with Alaric, they basically were sacking Rome as Romans.
I've got to go fix communion. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
In short, it's complex.
Yes.
It's complex.
Yesterday I was at the nail salon and there was a lady there. She was, I'm not sure what her ethnicity was, but it was Asian or something like that.